I thought maybe you left. I wasn't going to start till you got here. Hey. Okay, it's time to go. Now stay on schedule. We're good project managers, right? I was a good one. I don't know about you guys. Yeah. We got a good one up here. I admit to total confusion about what he does, but I'm going to introduce him anyhow. He does UX stuff. You ever heard of that language? I kept looking for it too as I was going through his material. You know, and Peter is regarded as a true UX design visionary and one of the best UX design leaders in the world. But he couldn't tell me what the language was. Yeah. Turns out UX means user experience. I kind of translated that to user-friendly, but I'm not too sure he would agree with that. User experience, and it's an interesting thing if you start reading about it, and hopefully you read a little bit about what he does. But I'm going to read this to you and try not to mumble. He is responsible for helping businesses develop and establish meaningful company-wide experience strategies by understanding the audiences and customers. They build emotionally rich and intuitive systems, and that was a giveaway. It didn't say complicated language systems, it said emotional systems. So today, Peter's not going to talk about software languages, he's going to talk about empathy. You know what empathy is? Feeling for others. Right? Got that one right. And how it can be leveraged to make sense and motivate project teams to deliver better results and disrupt the way things are now done so they can do it a whole lot better. How's that?
Sounds great.
Great, okay. You want this.
Thank you.
And you got one. Okay. Well, let's welcome Peter, all right?
Can you hear me well? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, cool. Thanks for having me. Sure, it has been a full day for all of you. It looks like we had some casualties as well along the way. I'm thrilled to talk to you about a big passion of mine, which is empathy. So you may see actually here on my laptop, it says form follows empathy. I didn't just put this on for this talk. I walk around with this. I walk into offices of executives and tell them that they're doing it all wrong. So when the wonderful Sherry Janes approached me with this, I was thinking, are you sure you want me to talk about empathy to this group of people? And she said, yeah, they're looking for something new. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Empathy is all about, getting to understand what people really need. So we learned a lot of things already earlier today, listening to the first keynote. Anne was talking about emotional intelligence and cultural intelligence and how you use it to get better results. I believe the empathy is hidden within those intelligences, like emotional and specifically the emotional intelligence is deeply rooted in empathy work. Later we learned from the general, I decided to call him the general, that we live in a VUCA world, which I hadn't heard that expression before, but I liked it. He ran out of time, and I don't know if you noticed I don't know if you saw it, but he had actually a slide that was a bullet that said empathy, but he had to gloss over it because he didn't have time to actually go there. So I'm not sure what he was going to talk about in that regard, but I hope it's along the lines of the things that I want to talk about. And then I heard a really, really fascinating tale right out of Saudi Arabia. If you have time to stay after my talk, find this gentleman over there, Professor Mark Reeson. He can tell you all about it. So I am sure that when you read the Empathetic PM that you thought, oh, this is going to be wonderful. I always wanted to be empathetic, right? Yeah. I think you thought that. What the? I'm not getting judged and measured on empathy in my work. I need to be on time, on target, on money, right? Empathy, this warm and fuzzy thing, what is that, right? The general was talking about ambiguity. Empathy falls right into that. And I guarantee every program manager in this room is afraid of the word empathy because you can't measure it. There's no metric you can attach to it. I know that that is not easy for you to deal with, you know, and how do we use it though to deliver better projects? It's actually not as hard as you think. So I'm going to make a bold statement right here. By being more empathetic as a PM, using simple techniques, you will be more successful with your projects. I guarantee it. As a side effect, people will actually like you and your work. So, before I actually go into the details, one quick word on my presentation. You have detected by now that I'm not from this country. I was born and raised in Germany. I have the tendency to butcher the English language, and especially my grammar will, be noticed when I go through the slides. So if you're an enthusiast of grammar, I apologize. I'm not trying to offend you. All right, some real quick facts about myself, and I'm not going to dwell much about it. So I'm the CXO and the founder of a company called Project 202. I am not a program manager, never have been. I have no certification. I didn't know what PMI means. So why would you listen to me, right? I have an incredible job. I get paid to envision a better world. Quite literally, companies come to my company and tell me, we're doing it all wrong. Show me the way. So the first things I do, I tell them, I don't believe you. Then I go and debunk hypotheses that has formed over time. Then I remove opinion, and then I help them to develop a strategy to execute the things that they're trying to accomplish better. I'm super lucky that I work for a company where everyone in that company, including the program management organization, believes in empathy and how empathy can help you to be successful in your work. Okay, still no qualification why I should be talking to you, right? I personally have been directly or indirectly involved in over 1,000 projects. Literally everything you can imagine, from the small startup to ERP replatforming, to service design, to helping banks to be successful, you name it. I've seen it all. I believe a lot of the failures that I've witnessed over the last 20 years had to do with not being empathetic. And I'm going to tell you why. Before I go there real quick about Project 202, there's one thing that is really important to understand. Empathy work is really the foundation to revealing the reality of what's truly going on. When someone tells you a product needs to be in a certain way, when someone tells you a service needs to be structured in a certain way, a communique that needs to go out needs to be written in a certain way, they may not know if that will hit the mark because they have not done the empathy work that it would take to understand who is the person on the receiving end. How do you talk to them? Why would they listen to what you have to say? So understanding that need is crucial. And so my company goes into these environments all the time and tries to understand what people really need. And there's many, many empathy techniques that are not hard to do, that everyone can learn, that you can apply, that can really help you in your work. And I'm going to give you some tactical pointers today of how you do that. Okay, so let's talk about it. Empathy. What is it? Who here thinks they're empathetic to someone else? Nice. Who here thinks that they are a natural empath? Do you know what an empath is? It is natural to them to understand what other people's needs are. They understand what they go through, they can sympathize with them, they can help them to do a better job. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to apply a skill set around empathy. They just do it. They're usually very successful. The formal definition of empathy is very fuzzy. I don't personally like it, and it's really hard to understand what this is actually supposed to mean, right? Empathy is the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing from within the other person's frame of reference, very important. For example, the capacity to place oneself in another's position. Again, it's not really telling much about what I'm talking about or what you really can do to use it. I like to talk about it this way: being able to walk in someone's shoes. If you haven't walked in the shoes of your team members at least once, they're not going to trust you or believe you in the things that you want them to do, because you don't understand what they're going through, the needs that they have, the aspirations that they have, and the challenges that they have. Here's what empathy is not. It's not about you. When you use empathy skills, it's never about you. It's about the other person, understanding them. So let's practice this. Let's do a little exercise. I'm empathizing with your situation right now. Here's what I know. You had to get up early, right, to get here. Most of you were here for the first keynote. I had to get up a little earlier than you because I had to still massage my presentation. I know that by this point of the day, it's going to be hard for you to take more information in, right? We all have a load threshold, a cognitive load threshold that we can't surpass. No matter what I tell you right now, not much is going to stick. You had a really long day, and I know you're waiting for that drink. I'm also fully aware that I'm the roadblock to that drink. So how was I able to empathize with you? Because I walked in your shoes. I got up just as early as you guys. I learned a lot of things, but it was a long day, and it's going to be even longer for me. I'm my worst enemy right now because I really want to drink. So I'm trying to get as fast as possible through this. I try to purposefully keep it a little bit shorter than an hour so that we can get faster to that drink. And you can have a few more questions. We can also continue the questions outside if you hang around, because I'm going to hang around. All right, let's get to it, shall we? I want to restate one more time. By being more empathetic as a PM, using simple techniques, you will be more successful with your projects. I'm going to talk about 4 simple empathy skills that you can apply in your day-to-day work and probably will see results pretty quickly. So, let's see. Let's start with you guys. Since we have a program management function, and I've worked with many program managers on many of those projects, I want to try to find a little bit more out about the aspiration of a program manager and project manager. So I started interviewing some of our own folks. I started talking to a few guys outside of our organization just to get a sense of like, what's the PM's dream? And while there wasn't really a crisp answer, there was definitely an underlying theme that everyone was striving for, which was kind of aiming for the perfect outcome. You know, arriving at a place where you can feel happy and you feel like you accomplished something and you didn't die along the way. Once I started debunking that initial kind of feedback I got, I asked them a little bit more about like, okay, tell me a little bit more what that actually means, the outcome, you know, and then I started getting those phrases that everyone always talks about. Oh, on time, on budget, client happy, you know, excellent sprints, successful launch, high adoption, you know, and many, many more of those, you know. So I noodled on that a little bit, and it felt to me kind of an excuse, to be honest. I felt like these are success metrics that are being put on you by someone else, but it's not necessarily something that you strive for to be successful. Someone above you or next to you told you, we have to do this program, and I put you in charge of it. It needs to be on time, on budget. Okay, so I thought, all right, how do I get more to the bottom of the heart of this? So I didn't stop there, so I went right into the first set of things that we usually do, which I've heard mentioned here more than once today, which is stakeholder interviews. But we do them a little bit different than maybe some of you guys. A stakeholder I'll jump the gun here a little bit. So I went a little bit deeper and did the stakeholder interviews with my PMs, which is a one-on-one sit-down talking about them, you know, asking them what looks success for you, you know, what makes you happy, you know, what do you want to do when you grow up, that type of stuff, you know, and they became pretty candid, which is something that happens all the time when you actually take the time to sit down with someone and actually listen. It's not about you. So they told me. There were many, many great things that they told me, but there were 4 emerging themes, and all 4 of them you can use empathy to get better at. So, theme number 1, manage expectations. You all know that, right? I don't need to dwell on that. Someone sets a bar, and you have to manage against that bar, you know. And often we are not even asked in the process of determining what these expectations are. We just get handed a project or a program and have to do it. So how do we manage those expectations? And I will tell you how empathy can help with that. Building relationships. Building lasting relationships. All of my PMs felt strongly that that's key to their success. When they get rushed, when they don't have time to build that relationship, they fail. So I will give you a couple of pointers of how empathy work and skills can help with that. Communicate well. You'll think, yeah, duh, right? We all need to communicate well, always, and specifically you, because you're controlling so many ins and outs of the day-to-day work of a program or project. So I'll tell you a little bit about that and how empathy can help with that. What surprised me was the 4th theme. Passion. Be passionate. Try to care for the outcome of the work of others, not just your own success. What others accomplish is very important. You know, it speaks also to the culture that we've heard talked about today, you know, and team harmony and all of the above. So be passionate, and empathy can help with that as well. So let's start with the first one. Expectations. So there's the stakeholder expectations. They need to get something done. Can be very tricky to manage that. Like I said, we get them handed to us at times. How do we make them happen? And we're being told, just do it. Come on, it's going to be easy. There is this flawed understanding and expectation of your boss or whoever gave you this program that this would be a straight shot. I've seen it done before, it's easy, and I know you've done it before on different projects. Let's just do it exactly the same way, nice and easy, cruising down the road, right? Wrong. We all know reality at best looks like this. And that doesn't talk about the roadblocks, the potholes, the rainstorms, the wildfires, the bears that are crossing the road, right? Everything, right? So those are the expectations that you are trying to align with reality, the expectations that someone else gave you. Then there is your team and their expectations. Some of those larger teams can be very dangerous. There is roadkill for sure. People will backstab you. Some give you up. I think all of us have experienced that one way or the other. And it can be also very powerful. When you have a good team that you love working with and everything goes well, things can be wonderful. So, what do you do with that? How do we use empathy to manage expectations? Be curious. I mean it. Be curious. Sit down with the people that are supposed to help you deliver success. Not in a group session, in a one-on-one session. Try to understand what motivates them. Try to see how you can walk in their shoes. Understand the context of their situation. Do you know what's going on in their life or their work, what they're struggling with? What is their core need, their underlying motivation to come to work every day? If you are curious at every turn, this will set the foundation to a wonderful relationship, not just with your stakeholders, also with your team. This is about them, remember? Not you. Be curious about them, first and foremost. Relationships. A relationship is not a contract. It's not picking a team. It's not arranging something. It's not guiding a project. Relationships are people and what you do with them. Building those relationships, as we know, take a lot of time and trust. And because it takes so much time, we often ignore it. And we are rushed. Of course, that doesn't help. Talk to my team. They are claiming, I have no real evidence that that's true, but they're all claiming that when they have a strong and lasting relationship with their customers, the projects are 100% successful. 100%. How do we use empathy to build lasting relationships? Be personal. Get to know your team members closely. Get to know your internal and external stakeholders closely. And be personal. Understand the working style and makeshift. And I'm going to show you later a quick example of like a tool that we're using to shed a little bit more light on that, because understanding a work style is not easy, because you need to do quite a bit of an assessment and a little bit of digging to see what motivates that person to work in a certain way and how you can talk to them. Find out what your team members aspire to. Where do they want to be in a couple of years, right? Do they always want to work with you on a project? Maybe not. Understand motivations and anxieties, and specifically anxieties is an area where you should pay close attention. I've been in tons of projects where I saw the fear in the eyes of people that were fearing their job if this project won't go well. That is real stuff, being afraid of losing your job, because there's usually a family attached to that. Understand that. That helps you better communicate and helps you better working with that individual. And identify the communication needs of each member. You probably all have before received memos or status updates. What makes us think that we all would like the same style of communication? What if you don't like to read long text? What if you need a visual to comprehend what's being asked of you? Yet here we are, sending out emails after emails, asking to perform things, without someone actually checking with me how I would like to receive that information or how I can comprehend information. So you have to identify the style of the communication, which will inform a communication strategy for you. Don't just talk to your entire team with the same style. Smile. Goes a long way to just smile at your colleagues, right? Not only will it prolong your life, there's actually real evidence for that, people will also like you more. Guarantee it. Smiling is not that hard. Try it. Yeah. All right, communication. Without a communication strategy, you'll fail. You won't get through to all your team members, and then they will run rogue, or they won't do stuff, or they won't show up, and that's obviously something we don't want. People are not people. The context that they're in matters, right? Just because we're in a meeting together does not mean you're getting through to me. And it's not always malicious. It's just I can't take it that way. I need to be talked to differently. If you have projects that are really big, where people work in factory floors, in offices, and you think that one memo will break through to all of them, you're definitely mistaken. You need to understand what that factory worker on the floor needs, what that person needs from you, and how you need to communicate to that person. Okay, let's use empathy to communicate better. Be a listener. Everyone claims they're a good listener, and then you find them never ever listening. The moment they ask you something, they pull up their phone. Clearly, they're not listening to what you have to say or your answer. So be a listener. Truly take time, and even if it's just 20 minutes, to listen to what this person is going through. Pay attention how the people respond in meetings or at work, because it gives you insight of the way how they communicate is maybe the way how they like to receive communication. Observe how team members communicate to their peers, another insight. Truly listen to what they have to say and how they say it. You can detect fears in that. You can detect pride in that, stubbornness. So there's all kinds of things we can detect in that. But be a listener. It will help you to better communicate. Don't force the communication style onto the whole team or just one communication style. Adjust your communication based on the personality and context. It's totally okay to send an email to 2 of your team members, and the third one you just walk up to him and sit in the kitchen and talk about it. Not everyone needs to get the same thing. Mention the core underlying need that you learned from the earlier steps, when you were sitting down, when you were curious. Repeat the core need of success at every turn. Because people keep forgetting what success looks like. Because they're in the weeds, they're in their own little world, and they need to be reminded. Now the fun one. Passion. Another ambiguous one, right? Passion is not being stubborn or insisting on something. It is about doing the right thing. And someone else had that in a presentation earlier, which I liked. It's about doing the right thing. What's the right thing for your team? What's the right thing for the stakeholder? What's the right thing for yourself, right? How can you develop passion that you care about what the other person does? Do they do their execution at a high quality? Do they deliver to that level? You should care about that. Be caring. Be interested in the outcome of every aspect of a delivery, even if it's not your domain. Go and sit with a developer of a software team. Go and sit with another program manager. Go and sit with a factory worker and try to understand the delivery quality and things that they care for. Help them with the outcome. Defend the integrity of the team. You are all in this together. Even if you didn't assemble your team, you're still all in this together, and you're supposed to deliver something and make something work. So be a team. Defend the team. Help articulate the successes with that, and not just the challenges. Don't just escalate. Celebrate. Try to walk in everyone's shoes. I know this is hard when you have a team of 150 people that are across the globe. But even then, you can try to find ways to understand them better, to use empathy, to get to know them a little bit better. You can come together occasionally. You can visit them. It's all doable. It's harder at a large scale like this, but you can. So, those were the 4 basic empathy skills that you can use immediately tomorrow and start getting better, smoother in your project work. Be curious, be personal, be a listener, and be caring. Quick summary before I go into a potential quick example. By being more empathetic, as a PM, using simple techniques, you will be more successful with your projects. I guarantee it. You're not believing me right now, but I guarantee it. You will manage expectations well. You will build lasting relationships. You will communicate better. You will be liked and perceived as passionate. Pretty simple, right? So, quick exhibit. And I'm basically done after the exhibit, and we can move right into the drinks, or we have some questions first. So, I see a couple of people having a hard time keeping up, so let's get quickly through this. So we had a customer that came to us about a year and a half ago. And like always, they have usually unrealistic expectations. And they were a little bit difficult to work with because they had, never worked with an outside vendor, nor had they ever done a software project. So the results were, it was hard to wrangle them. It was hard to make progress. Client was unhappy, and I don't know how often you get a call from a client, but when the CEO of another company calls you, it's never fun. So I took this call for my team, and it wasn't fun. So I promised I would look at this a little bit closer and try to understand why we didn't deliver as promised. Because we are such big believers in empathy and that the skills that we do day in, day out will help us to deliver these things. So I sat down with the team, and it turns out we actually had a lack of empathy for the situation of this company. We thought they knew that doing software is hard. We thought they would listen to us when we suggested things. But we didn't have enough time, because they had a very small budget, we didn't have enough time to actually sit down. So we actually didn't eat our own dog food. We didn't spend enough time to develop the relationship. We didn't spend enough time listening. So I told her, there was a female CEO, I told her to come back and give us another chance, and she was at least open enough to do that. So from the get-go of that project, we decided to be extra curious, extra personal, extra careful, and deeply cared for her passion for the solution, the philosophy behind it, and we smiled a lot, for sure. However, we also had the aspirations, if we, the big proponents of empathy, fail at this, maybe we need to go even deeper. How do we do this? How do we get quicker to understand the working styles of the team? How do we get quicker to understand what these people really need and what they really are looking for? So we actually used a little tool. This is an off-the-shelf tool by a small company called 5 Dynamics. And it allows you to do an assessment around working styles. And as a result, based on your working style, how you need to talk to each other and how that benefits you. So I'm going to show you what I'm about. So this is me. I'll explain this. We don't have time enough to go into the depth of this tool, and that's not really the intent. The intent is to show you how there's all these different styles amongst us, and if we don't pay attention to that, it makes it really hard to work together. So, these are 4 core dynamics that all of us operate under. This is a cognitive science philosophy. This is developed by cognitive scientists. This is my world, and everyone else's world looks completely different. So what this means is, I strive when it comes to exploring new solutions, new ideas, new concepts. It's totally effortless for me to do. I spend a lot of time there. I get a lot of energy out there when I do this, and I can see that you're already thinking, okay, the PM is not going to like me. And that is true. Because if I'm not getting pulled away from that at one point, I will keep spending time in this mode. To make matters worse, I'm extreme when it comes to get people excited about new concepts and ideas. I can spend all day long doing that. If I'm not being pulled back in time, we're too late to actually deliver and execute on the promise of the project. That doesn't mean I can't be good at examination or on the execution of the work. It just means I have to deliberately put my mind to get this accomplished. I need someone to tell me in time, hey, we got to shift gear. Stop exploring, Peter. So, luckily, I have a wonderful program manager named Laura. This is hers. Guess what happened at the beginning of the project? Her kind of threshold for exploration starts at the stress level. So the moment she knew I would be in the project, she started panicking. How do I get that guy? Stop exploring. I need to deliver this on time and budget. So we talked about that, and this tool actually delivers a communication kind of approach for me and Laura. She gets a little bit better when it comes to excitement. She can get excited, but she really wants to go to the delivery right away, right? And that's where she's really good at. Effortless plus when it comes to the details of things. Great, right? We need that. Also very effortless when it comes to final execution, driving the progress of the team. Excellent skill at that. Here's just one problem with those two pictures. It looks like we would be really good working together because we cover all the areas, but it actually is not. And here's why. All of you, if you would do this test, have two highs. Only two, and always two. That's how this cognitive test works. I can connect myself from exploration to excitement. And Laura easily can connect examination to execution. We are missing a connector between excitement and examination. Nobody will feel responsible getting us over there. Luckily, we found a team member that actually excels in those areas. So we were, whoops, whoop. That was fast. Sorry. Yeah. The drink is coming. So this is really just the core team. The team was a lot larger, and we had everyone do this assessment, and we actually also made the client do it. And there were some remarkable results that came out of that because understanding really how we need to talk to them, when we need to talk to them, what we need to use to talk to them, what the comprehension of these people is. It actually allowed us to uninvite and invite people from meetings that they would otherwise have participated in because it's meaningless to them. They can't comprehend what's being said. So we leave them out of that. We only invite them to the part that actually is meaningful to them. So it was really, really powerful, but that's a little bit more advanced. If you just follow the initial early simple steps that I mentioned earlier, you should already do a lot better with your projects. All right. So let's jump to some Q&A. Questions? Yes?
You said you did 1,000 projects. I just sort of wonder what countries. Yeah, you said you did 1,000 projects. I sort of wonder what countries maybe you did them in, because I'm thinking if they were in the EU, Germany might be different than France, and if in the US may be different. So do you see you have to do empathy different in other countries? Or?
Absolutely. So the question is, do I need to change the approach to empathy when we go into different countries? And the answer is absolutely yes. We have done empathy projects and work across the 6 continents. The only one missing is Antarctica. Not much out there. You absolutely have to change the way how you communicate. You have to understand better the local culture. You have to understand better what motivates them, how they think about the world, what their personal aspirations are. Absolutely. So we spend time with teams. So when we have like offshoring components and things like that, we try to get them together at least once. So we very common invite the offshore team to come to Europe or America for just a week or 2 weeks, and the teams sit side by side and they get to know each other, they listen to each other, they are curious about what they have to do and what they go through. And that alone makes a huge difference already. Just a video meeting is not enough. You know, if you can get to them in person, makes it so much better. So yes, cultural differences, working styles, There's tribal stuff happening, what kind of tools they're using because someone else injected a tool a long time ago that is different than the tool that you're using in a different geography. There's all kinds of things that you need to look at. No more questions.
So it is easier said than done sometimes, right? When you are putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, and it is, the outcome is not, the customer is expecting some outcome, but that's tough to have.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be some balance. How would you balance? You've got to be tough too, to do the right thing, and not to be not empathetic on the other side, like having that balance. How do you do that?
Well, personally, I feel you should always be empathetic, right, to the situation that someone is in, right? Always. I'm a firm believer that if we all would be more empathetic, the world would be a better place. I think what you're asking is, I don't always have time to do all the things that you're saying, right? But I don't think they take as long as you might think. It doesn't have to be a lengthy process, right? If you have strong relationships, and we all have strong relationships, they actually come effortless. You know, you talk to them, you listen to them, you know, and that makes you build that relationship, form that relationship. So balance, yes, but I don't think empathy derails all your other efforts. Matter of fact, I actually think it will gain you time by removing some of the things that you're doing today that you actually don't need to do, right? Those meetings where everyone has to come, right? Or the meetings that you don't even understand why they exist, right? That type of stuff, you know. You can actually shed some light with empathy on why they take place, and you can help avoid them. So you're actually gaining back when you do those things. I don't think it will delay any of your project work. I don't know if, did that answer your question?
It was more on the side that expectations-wise, probably. That if your customer is expecting, that's what they have in their mind, but that's not the outcome that the company is looking for. Where is the balance? How do you have the empathy for the customer, but that's not what the outcome you have been asked to provide.
Well, I mean, in the initial revealing reality aspect, you have to understand all the dimensions of the challenge in front of you, right? The business goals of the stakeholders, the goals of the teams, the outside pressures, competitive threats, the technology environment that you're living in, and then the people, right? So there's multiple dimensions you have to balance there. But if you do the investigation, you understand all of those, and guiding the customer or the stakeholder becomes actually fairly easy. I think, I don't know if you remember when I said earlier, I remove opinion. I get hired to remove opinion. Some of the empathy techniques you can do, they're a little bit more advanced than what I'm describing today. They allow you to leave all opinion behind because they provide the evidence that your hypothesis is flawed. What you're telling me is not the truth. What your users or customers out there need is not a mobile app. It's maybe something completely else. Once they learn that, they usually align with, you know, okay, let's do it differently. Gentleman in the back, now you have to go all apart.
If I've done my homework correctly, I understand that you've been characterized as a futurist. And,
well.
and it would make sense if you envision, what was the tagline at the beginning of it?
I envision a better world.
Yeah. And so, you know, having sat here and listened to your presentation, it all makes such perfect sense from your perspective. I'm frankly astounded that businesses are just now catching on to a concept like this. How is something like that possible, that we're just now discovering this kind of perspective?
Yeah, excellent question, and it's the story of my life, you know. I've been preaching this for the last 15 years, you know, and people, well, first off, empathy, the word empathy, right? It's warm and fuzzy. How do you work with that, right? I think we live in a world that rightfully was driven by the left-brain people of this world. And I'm one of them, by the way. I have actually uniqueness. I'm a left and right-brain person, you know, and maybe that's the reason why I can specifically be empathetic for both worlds. But I'm also an engineer, and I'm also a designer. I actually have both backgrounds. And the engineers of this world, including myself, quickly want to solve a problem. And technology is really good at that, right? And so they forced ahead, right? They delivered a solution, you know, that weren't thought through. They solved the problem, not the human problem. So once we started talking about the human problem at the end of that equation, people started thinking about it. And to be honest, they needed a few failures. Wait, my product doesn't sell? Wait, you told me it has all this functionality and I cannot sell it, right? So that happens still today in many, many organizations, you know, because like we're gathering requirements the wrong way, but it's a completely different topic. But so convincing the executives that they should have a chief experience officer like me in their organization that bridges the gap between engineering and marketing, the desire of the market and the desire of the teams that can build things to bring something to life. So if you look around, some of the largest, most successful companies today, they just have started hiring chief experience officers or chief design officers. And even then, they rarely sit at the highest table, right? Until we kind of penetrate that level, it will still take a while. I still see really, really bad approaches to building nice solutions, you know. And if you use more of that empathy up front, you're saving so much downstream, you know, that nobody talks about that, you know. I think there's some Forrester research, like for every dollar you spend on empathy and design work, in the beginning you save 1,000 downstream, you know. And if we can deliver those proof points, more people will adopt, you know. And you're absolutely right. It's bonkers to me. This is the most logical thing to me, you know, and nobody is really doing it much. It takes a little bit of upfront work, but once that is done, it will set you free.
We have one more question.
Oh, there's a lot more questions.
Could you share with us the name of the software tool that you're using?
Yeah, the company is called 5 Dynamics. It's a small startup. We actually also helped them refine this tool in a separate project. And they have developed the cognitive science behind it over 2 decades ago. And so it's not a personality assessment, just so we're clear. It's not like a Myers-Briggs. It takes literally just 3 minutes to figure this out. 3 minutes to understand how I should be talking to my colleague and the anxieties that that person possibly gets from me being a free spirit and explorer, right? So, I think I referenced them also in the material. I think you can get the presentation.
So maybe a little bit outside the PM space, are there companies that you see that are doing it really, really well that would be visible and something that we could all like kind of see and measure?
Yeah, in all kinds of industries. I mean, they're the common names that you already know that invest into these type of activities. They have entire insights teams in their organizations that go out and deliver the insights to the people that need to use it. So if you look at, I think there's another Kleiner Perkins or Gartner chart, you know, that shows the companies that outpace the other ones that actually invest in this. So I think all the common ones like Facebook's, the Google's, the big things. We're doing a massive project for Southwest Airlines. They're doing it. You know, so there's heavy machinery stuff, like we're doing something with BMW in Germany for manufacturing. They all know that they have to do something that works better. You know, there's these outside pressures now on everyone to deliver better experiences, to be more efficient, and so on. You know, so but I think in the Fortune 100, some of the most successful ones, you will almost find not a single one that have no that don't have a user experience or insights team.
Okay, Peter, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for reminding us that getting the work out is not just focusing on getting the work out,
That's right.
but focus on the people getting the work out,
That's right.
right? Okay, thank you.